welcome to Eyes and Teeth Season 5, Edition 3, with my special guest, Don Reid. Don Reid is one of the original comedians of Granada TV back in the 1970s, a writer of comedy and Ken Dodd routines, a lecturer on comedy and variety acts on board the cruise ships, as well as a cruise ship legend. I worked with Don Reid on cruise ships in the late 90s. Today, we talk about Don's early years in a band, in a duo, in the comedians, in new faces. We talk about ventriloquists. We talk about Don missing out on being a cast member of Heidi High. Frank Carson, Wurzel Gummidge. Don started a petition to get Ken Dodd knighted, and it paid off. We talk about touring the UK, working with top names, as well as cruising all over the world. Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, Don Reid.
Hello, dear boy. Can you hear me?
Hi, Don. I've got you loud and clear. You right, sir?
I'm fine. The last two cruises I had, you know, over to Cruise Maritime.
Yes.
Who treated us, okay, you took a 30% cut in wages, but there was no commission.
Right.
Plus the fact it was cash at the end of the week. And they treated us so well. I got off one ship in Tilbury. There was a taxi waiting to take me to Heathrow Hotel and flight. And that's how they treated us. And wherever I was going, they organised my flights from Manchester. They were such a lovely company to work for. Did you do the old Arcadia?
No, I never got to. I done the new one.
Yeah, the old one. It was a beautiful ship, but even more beautiful now, the refurbishment. And you got outside cabin, deck 9. Wonderful it was. So
Was it under sea level?
it was. The problems on deck 8. Yeah, and it's a beautiful stage and everything to work. But the refurbishment they did with it was brilliant. It was really up to date. But yeah, they all come to me as the granddad of cruising and what have you. I went to the end of the theatres, into the cabaret clubs, and the end of those, and went to the social club, and became fun pubs. I went through all those until it became. I did the last of the summer seasons as was. I've been posting stuff this week. Like we did Llandudno, 5 programmes a week.
Wow.
And we had the luxury of doing one night music all 2 nights, and then a farce on the Saturday. And so I saw them go out the way, and so I went to cruise ships, and they're doing it with the cruise ships. Now the whiz kids are, we'll do this and we'll do that. They forget it's the punters what they want, you know. So
Yeah, of course, you got to think about what they want. And so when you had all the clubs, you had all the cabaret clubs, and then you had the theatres, the summer seasons, and now the cruises are gone. Did you ever think that you might be a jinx?
I've just put my vent doll away, actually. I've got him out to wave for the NHS. He's a very old polar bear called Peregrine.
Oh, okay.
And when I was dating, he used to come out. When we did the recorded the Landlady's television programme, he was on TV for that.
Oh, lovely.
What it wasn't a vent actor, it was a puppet actor. You used to have somebody on the mic off stage doing the voice. So I couldn't control what they were going. I'm going to fight with him, and I couldn't control it, you know.
Too lazy to learn.
When they came from the stage to see me at Cambridge, they said this wonderful ventriloquist, and I thought, it's not a vent act, it's a puppet act, you know. I'm a good puppeteer, but
yeah,
you know.
And you're good with voices as well. You've got a very funny voice, but it's what you put into your voice, Don. You've always been very funny. Now we know you as one of the comedians. So how did it get to that stage? You must have had a big career before you got on the comedians for Granada. So how did it start?
It started out many years ago different. I started out in a group, and we were called This, That and the Other. And at the same time, there's another group in the North East called This, That and the Other.
Ah.
And while they were sorting out who's entitled to the name, etc., the guitarist, he got a job working for Westminster Bank, handling what was called the Medici project, which brought computers into banks. He was responsible for all the computers going in. And so he packed the group in. We became a double act, a brother act, Don and Eric Reid.
Ah.
I lived in Reid Street, he lived in Parsons Street. We tossed up and Reid came down. And so I became, and then he got fed up with that. He wanted to do his own thing. So I went off as Don Reid comedian, and then irritating people up and down, impressions, pattern. And I was doing it, I forget which came up first. I got one summer season in the Isle of Man, and I got Llandudno. And then the guy saw me and recommended to a man called Albert Stevenson.
Okay.
He was doing a couple of there were great TV producers. BBC had Barney Colahan. Granada had Johnny Hamp.
Yes.
There was Royston Mayo, who who was very big at all the London studios and still is alive. And but he saw me and he gave me a program called Up for the Cup.
Okay.
And it was a set 4 acts representing a football team along the lines of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And so it was a knockout thing, and we reached the final against Leyton Orient, and the Leyton Orient team consisted of Jim Bowen, Bobby Davro, a girl singer Something Gold, and we beat them as Bolton Wanderers. We beat them, and so we actually won the series. So they dropped the Christmas special, so that didn't come ahead. But then Albert Stevenson said, "I want you for new faces." And then he put me on, I think it was Shiwaddy Waddy, so that wasn't much chance with that, was it? And then
They've done pretty well, didn't they?
Yeah. But the manager I was with, I was in the second draw to another act who's passed away last week, but I won't mention his name. And when he left, I became top draw. Then the other act came back and they expected me to go down the draw, and I didn't. So I went off and found another manager, and then a television programme, a few things came up. I got offered a part of a man called Baz Moser in a television series.
Okay.
And it didn't go. The guy who written it was Catholic. They didn't want the bare boobs and bad language they wanted to put in it. And it was, the idea was right. 3 guys. Of course, you got Rodney Delboy and Grandad. Another idea that came along for 3 guys later on. It would have been great.
That works. Yeah.
Didn't go out. Then the other thing, I was working at the Fiesta, and Paul Shane came to see me.
Okay.
The big man, and he said, "Stay at my house tonight, really. We've got a television thing in Leeds tomorrow. I've told them about you. Come along and then do the word test and all that, do a script reading." I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's a holiday camp, and if we're not getting laughs, I throw you in the swimming pool." I said, "I'm not really going for that." I didn't go, did I? I might not have got it, but I didn't get that.
Oh, wow.
And I was always in the right place, but 5 minutes too late.
Yeah, so that was Heidi High that Paul Shane went into then after that.
Yeah. And then after that, it came up the chance to do the comedians and then the new comedians. There was about 3-4 series that I did after that. But when you took the comedians television series from the inception, it started in July 1972, and the last one finished in 1999 with people like Lee Carroll and good acts like that.
Yeah.
But they wanted to prove that the alternative was the new way to get rid of the old style.
Yeah, I remember a comic called Jimmy Bright was on there, wasn't he? Jimmy Bright. Johnny Casson.
Johnny Casson was on. From one series, the 3 that they liked was myself, Eddie Collington, and Johnny Casson. They called me as the bright Don Reid, the overweight Eddie Collington, and the what was the material? The crepe, not crepe, it was something like that. The crimpy Johnny Casson, it said. Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
But we got that. If you took all the series over the years, there was 115 comedians appeared in all of them.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. As people forget, I think alphabetically, the first one was Russell Roberts, who came out of a group called the Black Abbots, so he changed his name to Russ Abbott.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it went through a lot of comics. Johnny Allen was in Yorkshire, and he went right through. Some from South Wales. There was a lot
Jim
of
Bowen. Yeah.
Jim Bowen, yeah. Dougie Brown. There was a lot. He went through. They were all red coats. Jim was the exception. There was a headmaster who gave you up to be a comedian. Jim was. He was a lovely man. You probably worked with him, or Fred did you? Yeah. That was it about Fred. I think, were you on when I was doing the lectures as well?
I think I saw you do lectures once, Don. Yeah, it's fascinating, really funny. You talk about ventriloquists in them, don't you? So you got some good stories about vents, which is always nice.
That's a great line of the quiz programme is one side. Paul.
Have I got news for you, Paul Merton?
Paul Merton. He said that ventriloquists have a relationship with a dummy in a non-sexual way. I thought it was a lovely description. That was, yeah.
Well, you don't know the vents that I know, then.
I used to do a lot with Neville at one time, dear Neville, and he I think he literally hated that doll at one time. He would, but he was a clever ventriloquist, and he was the first one I saw doing the. Wayne Dobson was good at it, getting 2 people up and doing the voices for them. Do you use an electronic mouth?
No, I don't. I did use the mask thing for like 2 years because the cruise ships were requesting it, and places I was working were requesting it. So if they wanted a vent, they didn't want a vent without the mask. And I was turning down corporate gigs, and it's quite frustrating that you had to do a certain routine you didn't want to. And it became a good part of my act, but I never liked using people in the audience. because they're getting the laughs and I'm not getting the laughs anymore, you know. I can blame the dummy, but I know at the end of the day it's me.
We feed off each other. From one conversation, I now do my funeral routine as a ventriloquist carrying in a coffin. Remember, we talked about that many years ago. Now, what I see now is if you had a piece of furniture like a chair and you put a wig and a shawl in it and then the mouth across that, you could talk to the chair and the chair could talk back to you, couldn't you? The chair's getting more laughs than I am, like, you know.
You could do anything, you know. I've got a full-size speaker, like a PA speaker, that's got two big eyes on it, and the you know, the speaker part, that's actually a mouth that opens, and it's bright red with teeth. That's another £1,000 gone down the drain. You know, we spend our money on props.
But you wanted to be the Speaker of the House of Commons, did you? That's what it was.
I called it Mr. Speaker, but yeah, it's House of Commons. Yeah, you get a lot of dummies in there, couldn't you?
I wrote to when he was in charge still, the other guy who's just retired now. Because what annoys me is they get up there and they read a script. They don't do a speech. And then they're all like this, moving their hands. Then they look down and read. The one who does it best to me is Nicola Sturgeon. She doesn't look at, she goes like this and speaks it out, whether it's right or wrong.
Reaches the people, yeah.
What people should do is pick that script up to save him having to speak. Read it. Once you've read it, put the time on the picture, sign, hand it in, sign, and that saves the time of that having to get up and speak. And then the other thing was, I said, plus the fact, while he's talking, he's putting people up playing crushed candy and all the games. You can see them all on the phones. Mr. Burkoff, but he didn't reply to that one, sadly, you know. So.
Oh, did he not? Did it rhyme with Burkoff, the reply?
Ice and Teeth.
I wrote for many years, getting Doddy his knighthood. And
did you start that? Because I know that someone started a petition, and I'm sure it came from you, Don. I remember signing something online, and it happened in the end. So you probably are responsible for getting Doddy his knighthood.
I've got that many things that I'm copying off and putting on Facebook. That's it, yeah.
The town hall, yeah.
Now, if you can see the bottom corner there, what it says, the Freeman of Liverpool, resident Freeman of the city, Mr. Ken Dodd. I wrote about that as well.
Wow.
And I said he won't drive his sheep across the bridge. And I said he purports to be the mayor of Knotty Ash and all of that. And that was the luncheon that they put on, the comedian's luncheon, when Doddy had got his 2006, I think it was. And we worked about that for Doddy getting his knighthood.
Oh, amazing.
And Mr. Cameron became the leader of the Labour Party, the Conservative Party.
Yes.
And he said, I agree with you. This man, I will look into this. Then he became Prime Minister, and he didn't reply to any letters after that.
Oh, he was too busy, was he? Well, whatever happened, Don, it did happen in the end, and we were all very proud and very happy. Well deserved, wasn't it? Because he's been delivering laughter for how many years, and that's what this country needs, really, is laughter. You know that as a fine comedian, that laughter, you know, whether it's the best medicine or something that we actually need, especially right now. You know, people are going online or they're watching Netflix and they're searching out all the stand-up comedy shows, you know, because laughter is brilliant, and you've lived your whole life making people laugh. When you were doing the comedians, you got to work with a lot of people on tour as well, didn't you? You toured a lot of theatres and supported a lot of names. What was that like, being a support act to big names in concert halls?
I used to love that. If the show didn't go very well, they didn't blame me, they blamed the top of the bill, didn't they? That was the motivation, yeah. But over the years, I got to work with people, Neil Sedaka, Roy Orbison, Buddy Rich, the drummer, and you were supporting all of these people, and it was a great era. It was wonderful to do it, it was. Yeah. And then the theatres as well, to be co-top of the bill with people like Frankie Holmes. Don't you remember Frankie Holmes? He did an event out with Ambrose.
Okay.
And it was just great to be with these people. You forget the names, the Bachelors, Russ Conway, and it was music hall was in its heyday at the time. One of the things was that when Ken Dodd was in hospital towards the end, I got a phone call. Are you coming to see me? Are you coming to see me? I said, yeah, okay. I'll put Anne on. And he put Lady Anne on. And she told me where it was at Broadway in hospital. And I found out that he'd only had 3 visitors while he was in hospital. He didn't want people to come and see him.
Okay.
And he chose the 3. Now, not trying to be big time or anything. And I was on the Thursday before he came out on the Saturday, I think. And I went, and now because I was trying to get him his night up, I called him Sir Kenneth for years and years. I probably did in your company, Sir Kenneth. And he started to call me Lord Reid.
I'll start the petition tomorrow.
It'll end up with an F in front, Flawed, and or Flawed Reid. So I got to the hospital, I had to go to the final reception was at the chest clinic. And I said, I've come to see Ken Dodd. She said, who is it? I said, Don Reid. So she came back, she goes, this way, Lord Reid. And she was bowing and scraping. And she said, no, it's Lord Reid. And we sat there for maybe 2.5, 3 hours talking over the good times, the people who've done pantomimes, the things that made us laugh. We were the same wavelength. And then afterwards, the girl came in and said, it's time to have your legs done now, Mr. Dodd. Okay, he said. And we talked for a few more minutes. And then I got up to go, and he got hold of my hand, and I treasured it. He said, we've been friends for 50 years, and I've valued your friendship deeply. And I said, so clear off, I'm going to have my legs done. So that was that was the last words he ever spoke to me, clear off, I'm going to have my legs done. I didn't make the funeral, I was on a ship off the South China coast.
Oh, wow. You know, in an instant, he did become Doddy, didn't he? You must have watched so many times Ken in the wings, and then from that Ken, and he was kind of, he didn't look like an old man really, but he was getting a bit more frail, wasn't he, in his late 80s. But then you'd see him walk on stage, and then he just, something clicked with Ken Dodd, and he was alive the moment he walked out with the drum banging and genius.
Yeah, you know about Dr. Stage, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
If you're not very well, you go on stage, Dr. Stage, you feel wonderful while you're on, and then you go back to meeting afterwards. And when he was on stage, you could see his mind. And we did a radio series, and there were 4 mics, and I used to share the mic with him on the other side. And I was the Right Honourable Reginald Sneed for the prosecution, my lord. And I wrote this and said, the fun over there is Kenneth Arthur Dodd, QC. Yes, that's right, QC. Quite crackers me, Ken Dodd. That's how he did it, you see. But when you were working, you could see his brain turning over.
Yeah.
Then he'd he used to do that, like he'd cough, and he was thinking of a better way to say the line, how it suited him better. Like
really,
that,
it was just always ticking over, waiting for the next line to come. Wow. You were working with him on the Good Turns Society as well. You done a lot of those afternoon talks. He did invite me once, and it never happened, sadly. I know it was in Liverpool. So how did the Good Turns start?
It started about, I wasn't in at first. They were going to funerals, and they said, we're only meeting at funerals. Let's get together and do something more often. So they decided to meet 2 or 3 times a year. And then the third one, the winter one, would always be the ladies' one.
Right.
Santa was there, and all the ladies would get a gift. And it was just acts, sitting there talking, etc. It's gone beyond that now. It's become very, there's ladies joined, and it's become very much like a works dinner dance. There's less and less acts as they're dying off, obviously.
Oh, okay.
And so I went at Christmas. I was top table. I was with Ricky Tomlinson. I've known again for years and years. And it was... that was how it came about, and it kept going for doing good turns as in favours, as in being good turns as acts. And there would be people from, here's a good gag for you to suit you, and it was like that, you know.
It's a very, very generous society, just sharing material really, and gags and stories, and I bet there's stories of the Good Turns Society, which was started by stories from the good old days, from the Good Turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way of getting together, isn't it? It's really nice. And it's like a few acts like us, getting on a ship and talking for 1 or 2 weeks like we did.
Yeah, they were great days when you could talk about what you've done, where you've been. And when we did the 4 ships, we were on the 4 ships in Bergen the first time Ulcers did that.
I think so. I've done quite a few with you, yes.
Yeah. Anthony Stewart Lloyd was on, wasn't he? And
yes.
Remember Anthony Stewart Lloyd? Yeah.
I do, yeah, big voice.
When we were in the 4 ships, and we were, because I think it was Balmoral, we was like the newest ship of the fleet, and we were sailing out. This woman said, "This is ridiculous." I said, "What's the matter? What's the matter? I paid to see 4 ships. I can see 1, 2, 3. Where is the other one?"
You're joking.
Just took this piece of wood, and she went, "Oh." But these things happen, don't they?
Oh, they do.
Say things
the funniest things passengers say. That's crazy. Do you miss the ships at the moment? I mean, you were probably booked on some ships now, weren't you, Don? And do you miss...
I was due to appear last week in March into April, and then April into May. But what I'd done, because I thought I was going to have an operation with this specialist on one of my knees, and I said best to replace me, because if it had stayed, they would have taken me off.
Yeah.
I took myself off. Not that it matters now. I forget where they were, but if I never cruised again, the last 2 cruises I did were a dream. I flew to Montreal and sailed back down the Hudson River via Nova Scotia into Ringaskiddy. Have you done Ringaskiddy in Ireland?
I haven't done any of that. No, they're Montreal. I'd love to do all Canadian. That'd be nice.
Message in Ringaskiddy that we want you to fly out to join this ship. We've organised your flight from Manchester. So I sent the message back. It's the day that I dock in Tilbury. I won't be back in Manchester in time for the flight. Send. So the next day we were in the Scilly Isles. I got the message, okay, we're trying to sort that out. We'll get back to you. So then the next one was Honfleur, which you've been to Honfleur, haven't you? That French one.
Where is it? Oh, possibly, yes.
It's a beautiful place. It's like Whitby or York at sea. It's wonderful, it is. And I got the message there that we'll be taking you from Tilbury. So when I got to Tilbury, this company, Cruise Maritime. A taxi took me to Heathrow, an airport. My flight was fixed up the next day. I flew to Gran Canaria, was put up in a hotel, sailed across the pond, got off in Aruba, then did Aruba, Miami, and back. And that was the 2 cruises. And that should have been the cruise to finish on, which it probably is, to sail back down the Hudson River, you know. It was wonderful.
Incredible. Well, we hope it's not, because you've got more stories to tell, haven't you?
But the last cruise was on what was the Arcadia, and it was an Australian order. You've worked to Aussies, haven't you?
I remember one particular cruise, which is still my all-time favourite audience I've ever had, and I said, why are they so good? And they said they're all Australians this week. And I think I was actually working South Australia down the Australian Bight, but the audience, I want to work in Australia because of that cruise, because they were incredible for me, you know.
Well, I because of 2 wives over the years, Ian Bolton was born in Cheshire. I used to do a lot of after dinners. I did certain jokes, and he got me to do his farewell to cricket dinner at Drinkers Pub in Worcestershire. So I did that. Wow. But also there was Rodney Marsh, and I've become friends with Dennis Lilly, Jeff Thompson, 2 guests on the after dinner circuit. And I remember the lovely, and I told the Aussie audience all this, the story about being with these, and the lovely story of Rodney Marsh said to Ian Bolton, why are you so fat, Bolton? He said, well, every time I make love to your wife, she gives me a cake. And this was the banter going on in the middle of the cricket pitch. You tell the Australians this, and they warm to you straight away, and it's not lies, it's things that actually happened, you know.
Yeah.
Remember Gladstone Small, the cricketer? They sat him next to me so that he could do the last line of a joke about how to get a tortoise to put his head in. Of course, Gladstone, that's how they get a shirt on me, was the joke. And so the Australians would just love to talk, and because I could have been a £10 pom, you see, or the son of a £10 pom.
Yeah.
But they didn't come off, Some gambled. But this is a very true moment. The first time I sailed under the bridge was on a ship, and we sailed into Darling Harbour. The big ships can't go under the one, but we parked in Darling Harbour, and the captain put, I still call Australia my home. And I was, and I realised then I should have been an Aussie, you know.
Oh, Constantinople.
This is what's been so wonderful about cruising, you know. There's the ups and the downs don't even come anywhere because the ups are just so high, aren't they, that you just laugh at
Yeah,
the downs.
it's true. I mean, the downs really is the travelling, you know, to get to them. Sometimes you get some horrible flights and things, but you can't moan about getting to paradise, really, can you? Because we've got a job that we love doing, and we go away, we get to see the world. You've lost your luggage, you'll get it back. Hopefully, you'll get it back. But you got 2 weeks on a ship. Enjoy it. Netflix. It is what you make it, isn't it? Take a book with you. Write a book. Write something. Start a new act or something, you know. About being away, I always utilise the time, you know, by writing something and learning something new.
Hours with ideas about things, and that's where the places where you can't be a ventriloquist. And it came about by you being the baby inside the suitcase and things like this.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
You do that noise, didn't you? Yeah. But with our first cruise, I think, was the Black Prince.
Black Prince, yeah.
Yeah. And then I've seen it various places in the world, like the cafe at in Barbados and things like this. And I think we were 2 ships in at Amsterdam. Were you on when John Boucher was on as a passenger?
I think we would. No, I remember docking. I think I was with you. I think it was Black Prince, and then the Braemar, I think, was near us, and we all went over to see John Boucher, didn't we, for the day?
Yeah.
But I think we was in Norway at the time.
Lovely man, John Boucher. Yeah.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, he used to do the hand thing, but there was a Spanish ventriloquist called Senor Vences who used to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was good Spanish, that, Don. Senor Vences. Yeah. Yeah. I call him Wences. I say what I see. So, yeah. Are you still in touch with any of the comedians from the series, or do you talk to them now and again?
A few via this technicality thing, the modern high tech. At the moment, I've just got a new pigeon and a brand new quilt, so I'm up to date with everything. But 1 or 2 there are, but they're falling off the trig. Poor Nicky Martin passed away last week.
Oh.
And so that's getting to my era. Those, Colin Fingers Henry's had a stroke.
Has he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's just lost the use of his right hand, so he won't work again. But there's, as far as Jeff Stevenson's still about, I'm in contact with him. Lee Carroll, who else? 1 or 2 others. Mike Seeley, probably names you don't remember, but we're still in contact with each other. Hello, how are you, and that, So yeah. Let's see what's it. It's just a guitar. What's that? A Hofner?
Oh no, it's just I still can't play it. It's just an acoustic. Yeah, it's not an expensive one. I just bought it for my 40th. Still got to learn. Do you play?
Yeah.
Do you use a lot of music in your act as a comedian? Do you?
I got every kind of the paper. So I got to the stage now where I wasn't doing it. I used to always finish on the big Gene Pitney one and do the impressions, and then I had the left-handed cup and all these props. And
oh yes.
I stopped doing them, and I just walked on and walked off, and
Yeah, I remember watching you on the ships when you did write a really brilliant comedy classical pianist piece as well when you done that.
Symphony.
Yeah. What was it called? The
Symphony. It was spelled F-U-N-N-Y.
Brilliant. Yeah, Symphony. Perfect.
And I would go out and do the voice of Victor Borger. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Victor Borger was a brilliant comedy pianist, but yeah, I remember you writing that classical piece. It was brilliant because you made it work for the time. When you was at sea, it was something you put together when you was at sea. But you do a lot of talks about comedians and variety artists as well, don't you?
In the cupboard, there was about 10 talks at the end.
Was there really?
One of them is where does comedy come from, and I do that occasionally. And I'm tempted to go over and do one for like the Women's Institutes in the afternoon if I retire, just to go out maybe once a month and do. It's very serious being funny, something like that. It's very serious being funny, and then comedy comes from life.
Yeah.
I go to church, and the girl that stands next to me, we're like, they call us the twins because we giggle and things like this. And it's things that, and she was saying, what hymn would you like as your funeral? She knew which one it was. And then I don't think you've seen me do my funeral routine, from us talking.
No.
My funeral now, they're going to go into the service to the spiritual when Jesus washed my sins. Oh, happy days. They've got to go in clapping and singing happy days. Then they're going to do, there's only one hymn, Be Still. And then when it's my turn to go, whoever does the eulogy, I'm going to go through the curtains into the oven and come back out for one more round of applause before I go back in again. Then I'm going to go outside to Vera Glenn's Wish Me Luck and You Hear Me Goodbye. And then Norman Greenbaum singing, When the Spirit in the Sky. And that's my funeral. It's all set up and paid for it. It's over there, what I want, And that came about from talking to you about where you can be a comedian, where you can be and that's what I say about the joke that came from that with 3 blokes at a friend's funeral years ago. Leave the lid off until it was time to go for the service.
Okay.
And it'd be cheers. Yeah. And one said he was a good pal, wasn't he? He said, yeah. But what would you like people to say about you when it's your turn to go? I should thinking like and say, he was a good family man. He cared and loved his family. I said, yeah, you're right there. He said to the next, what would you like? He said, I just happened to say, he cared for the community, which I did. You did, yes, you were a local councillor. He said, what would you like for the third one? I'd like to say, he's still breathing. And that's how I explain where comedy comes from at the moments of like that, you know. And
right.
And then you can take a subject from life, and you know it probably happens with you. It triggers something amusing in your brain, and you go off at a tangent. And I used to go, Jim Bowen used to say, he's gone off the bloody main road again. I said, go off at a tangent and talk about whatever came into my head, like.
Yeah, as long as you can come back to the subject you started with. But it's nice when something it triggers in your mind. It's just like talking to someone like yourself, and then a memory or a person or a piece of music can trigger a gag just like that, or you can write something there and then. I think I write something every day, Don. Do you still write? Because you used to write for a lot of comedians, and you still write for people, or who did you start writing for?
Yeah, should I tell you the story of my life as I am, what things happen? I got asked to write a screenplay for a small two-handed thing for the Edinburgh Fringe.
Wow.
Of course, what's happened to the Edinburgh Fringe? It's cancelled it.
You was asked to write it this year. Wow.
Yeah, no, we're writing it for next year, and it's two guys, but I've put two other people into it. One goes into the pub. As he goes in, he orders, looks at the table, the other ways, he takes 2 pints and goes off. And the barman says to this other guy, every time they get together, they're just winding each other up. And he goes to the table, and it's two blokes who've been since they were at school, and it's got gags in it, like, you know, you're one of 5 children. Yes, you were lucky, you were an only child. Lucky? Yeah, of course. You had your own bedroom, your own bed, you slept on your own. You don't know what it's like to sleep on your own until you get married, and things like this, pattern like this. And these two guys go through it and then talk about their lives together at school, and I'm bringing it. And the only thing I made a mistake was I put in Marjorie Proops. And youngsters like your age don't have a clue who she is. She was the agony aunt. But you've probably heard of Mel Mooney, have you? The Daily Mail agony aunt.
Yes, slightly, yes.
So I modernised it to let them talk about, well, we had so-and-so and so-and-so. And they talk about problems in the married life, you know. And so I'm writing that, ready for, then they put their own swear words into it, whatever they want. And it's 80% finished, but I go in, when I write things, you do a first draft, second draft, third draft. That'll be funny, I'll do that, yeah.
Yeah, well, I started writing a show which actually I want to take to Edinburgh one day. It's called Arthur Lager Gets Real. It's about, it's my one character. It's based around when he was born in 1937. He's now 82. And then I've got 5 puppets made up of his life. So he's a 7-year-old puppet. Then he's 23, then he's 40, 60, and 82. So I've written material around when he was at those ages, you know. And it all, there's a reference in every year. There's a running gag, you know, through when he ends up joining me in my act, you know, when he's in his 70s. And so I want people to think, not to think that he's real, to actually kind of believe that Arthur Lager's got a bit of reality about him, you know, and it's taking people out of the real world for an hour. And I opened it in March in Hastings, and it worked really well. Really worked. And then it closed, and then I come home and lock myself away. I'm just like my dummies now.
Yeah, but you work at it. It's rather, I got the idea of getting the dummy out, and I'm not speaking to you. I've been in that black bin bag, bunged in that cupboard under the stairs. No, what? You're not in the cupboard under the stairs now. We've moved to live in a bungalow. A bungalow? And you've not told me. So it's like this. You wouldn't go to the dummy and say, by the way, you're in another house.
Yeah, we're moving,
like
no.
That. It's just an idea of the dummy. For 5 years I've been stuck in a black bin bag, you know, and you expect me to come out and be all full of life and that, you know. It's just the idea. And then the other thing, like he says, relating to the age of, was it Neville King once? He threw the dummy in, and at the end of it, a little guy got out of it and ran off stage dressed as the dummy.
Neville did do that routine, but there's a guy called Dennis Spicer that did that in the 64 Royal Variety. But Neville King did do it as well, and I think he used Kenny Baker. It was the same person as well.
I'm old enough to remember the Spicer.
Really?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Don't embarrass me, said it like that. Don't embarrass me.
Oh, that was Lenny the Lion, that one, wasn't it? Terry Hall and Lenny the Lion.
Oh, Terry Hall, that was, yeah. Dennis Spicer was the good-looking blonde guy, smoked and that, and I forgot the name of the doll now.
He had a monkey, Maxwell the monkey, he had with one ear. I got a hee-hole here, got one hee-hole here. It sounded a little bit like that, with a big floppy ear. Yeah, but Dennis, I'm writing a book, as you know, Don, about ventriloquists, and so ask me any questions, and I can hopefully I'll be good at a vent quiz. You know, I'm good at venting my anger. No, you're one of the finest comics that I've seen work. You just do gag and story after story. It's brilliant. But you've also got fire eating and juggling in your act, but that's all comedy based, even sword swallowing. When did the variety start joining your act?
The variety, it was whenever I saw a prop that I could use.
Yeah.
It would be, I used to do the getting the rabbit out of the hat, and it would bite my finger. And I used to batter it with a mallet and pull out the flat rabbits, which is the gag, things like that. So it was whenever I could use a prop. It wasn't particularly too corny. Or one of the things I brought up, don't insult people, either intelligently or physically. Don't have a go at them. You know, if they speak to you, yes, you can say something. But and it was going back. It was the old days of the elephant in the box. And I always wanted to be like that in a multi-act. Feed off people. And when the fire eating act is brilliant as a double act, because the other guy does the words, and I'm going, you what, man? And then he takes a mouthful of this aircraft fluid, and then he'd go, and he will now, and he'd pat you on the back, and you swallowed it. And it was all like this.
Nice.
It was funnier, double act. That it's getting people who want to work on something like that nowadays. It was like the symphony had to be with that particular period.
Yeah, as an assistant or as somebody that could do the comedy, and they have to be a good feeder as well, don't they? Because you're the comedy, and you need a straight man or straight lady to feed you.
The one guy we were working with was Des King.
Oh yes,
You know Des.
Des and Cherry, yes.
Des and Cherry. We did summer season together, and we'd stand in the wings, and there's a sketch called The Pedoncle. And we both knew it so well. We used to say, do you want to do the first line or the second line tonight? And we'd want to go out as a comic, and we'd swap nights about. That's one of the most wonderful tones you can work with when you do that, you know.
That's nice. It was the generosity of a comic, isn't it? To share the lines like that. That is nice.
But I was brought up by the old comics, some comics, a bit like Les Wilson. I do the gags and that. I was brought up by the fact that as long as they laugh there, it doesn't matter who's get it, because you'll get the credit for it anyway.
Yes.
So if the girl gets the laugh, the people say, he's told her, whether you have or not, and people remember you as the comic. And I've always never tried to be hurtful to an audience. I was brought up by a great man. He was in a comedy double act. He never achieved what he should have done. But he gave me so many things to say, you know, don't forget, you can only wear one suit at once. You can only drive one car, so why buy more than one? And it was things like this. You're only as good as your last show. And the one thing I tried to teach crew staff was, don't ask a question unless you're prepared for the answer. Because you don't know did you enjoy the show? Someone might say no. What are you going to say then? So if you say, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I do, you've not asked a question then. Yeah. So select them. Don't ask questions, you know.
Yeah, but passengers will always tell you what they think, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Years ago, you do gags that you can't do nowadays. I used to do a gag about a hair lip. And it was a funny gag without being offensive, but I'd just done New Faces that night. And they got me seen on television tonight, blah, 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 blah. And I used to do a card trick. Pick a card, red card, high card, black card, fake, any card of any value, and tell me what that card is. Was it so? No, well, find it yourself and throw the pack at them then. This particular woman said, and the gag that followed it was that, and I learned a lesson then. That the gag had to go straight away because it looked like I would have been having a go at her like that. Yeah. You know? So, but again, always be prepared for what they're going to say, you know. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You have to be thick-skinned, and I'm not thick-skinned in this business. But like reading the reviews and just remembering the bad ones, you have to let them go at the end of the day. Because you just need to move on and maybe even learn from the bad comments. If it's something you can change, if they didn't like you, you can't change that. Just let them go. Ken Dodd told me once. I was talking to him backstage, probably '95 at the Grand in Blackpool. And well, this is just about doing gigs, really. I just remember him saying, if you have a bit of a bad night, just think of the money. You get in your car, drive away, and then just do that. You can't see this on the podcast, but just like, I've got the money, see ya, and move on. And the next day is another day, But we do love our job. Everyone has a bad day at work, and so you just carry on.
Oh, contributional.
Do you know what my last complaint was on the ship last year? The complaint was he knew Bernard Manning, who was a racist comic.
Because you knew him.
So I said to the crew that actually just went, I also worked with Gary Glitter, so what does that make me? And which is true. The guy came in to see if I mentioned Bernard Manning in the next talk. And it was the crew said, thanks for not doing it, so I didn't do it. But when somebody, just because you know somebody, it's like when we did what was the nice Fred ship in Balmoral, where they got the nice big atrium, I think. Robley was on, and he did his Vera and Barry and Vera thing, the Victoria Woods. Can't do it.
Oh yes.
And the complaint was it takes the mickey out of handicapped people who can't have a normal sex life.
That's a bit specific, isn't it?
I won't mention his name, but I said, Boz, let me have a go at him. And he wouldn't let me loose on him. So I was going to say, is that what turns you on watching films like that? And in the end, I got Boz to say, right, so if you give us your name and address, we will write to Victoria Woods manager and tell him your opinion. And he went, right, that she wrote it then. He thought that, and he had to go at Robley, and Robley took it a bit to heart, so.
Oh, he's a sweetheart, isn't he? Yeah.
I'm still Dad. If you speak to him, just say, Don Reid sends you Jove.
It's Jove.
Text me once. He didn't put love, you Dad, he put Jove, you Dad, and it's become a thing. We just say Jove all the time now with Robley, yeah.
I'll message him. I'll message him when we're done.
Ice and Steve.
How do you think we can keep the funny people's memories alive going forward? Because, there is clips of like Ken Dodd on YouTube or Neville King, Norman Collier, all these greats, Jim Bowen. Rather than just always look on YouTube, is there any other ways? There's plaques, I guess we can pay tribute to them, but we don't want them. What you're doing, you're keeping their memory alive by talking about them in talks, and they're obviously in books. But we don't want the memories of these great comics to be forgotten, do we?
We'll go by the by if we're not careful. The answer is like, if you do talk about it and talk, go and look for it yourself, then let them find it. But if you tell them what was the brilliance of it, it's like Doddy. He did the talking for yourself, and I wrote 2 routines, and I stick my chest out. He did them syllable for syllable the way I'd written them.
Wow.
And I said that was shows that I'd written it in the right way.
It's a compliment.
I said to this woman, I said, thanks, Robin. And I become Doddy and I write as he would say it, you see. And one of the jokes is about any farmers in. Are you sure? Just check your shoes. There must be something. And it's stuff like this. I hold my chest that I wrote those 2 jokes, but the credit was he said them the way that I wanted them written.
Wow.
But I'm not going to run bragging and boasting about that.
No, but I love the fact that you write them in his voice. You write the joke, and then you will perform it as him, and then you would present Ken with the joke. That's a lovely way of delivering. So what if you were writing for Frank Carson? Would you write it as Frank Carson?
Come over here, Mr. I said, I walked along the promenade. I said, Jesus Christ, come over here. Have a look at me like that. The joke about that would be, I went into a pub the other day and there was a sign that said, beware of the dog. And he walked in and there was this mangy old critter on the floor fast asleep. I said, is that the dangerous dog? He said, no, it's not dangerous, but people keep tripping over him.
That's funny.
I wrote John Conte's after dinner speech, so I became John Conte when I was writing it like that. You know?
Oh, okay. You sometimes become Wurzel Gummidge as well, don't you? You know that's my favourite.
The Virginia starts came them to have pets the old days. It is, yeah. I used to do that on the answer machine. I'm not there. I'm in the 12-acre meadow with my friend the Croman. If you leave a message, I'll get back to you when I'm finished now. See you later, all right. My wife would rub it off every day. On the old days of tapes, I'd re-record it every day like that.
I loved your Wurzel, but you do the walk as well. You do the brilliant walk.
I put another message on. Moment I'm at the Nottingham, message K you'd like to weave, after the tone I'll get back to you. And people had heard all the words, but not. I heard all this baptism. They're trying to work out what I'd said, you know, but that was all. That got destroyed, you know. That was all, yeah. I can't remember which one of my wives it was, but it was one of them who did it, yeah.
You think people would run out of things to talk about, comedy-wise, you know? You get a lot of alternative comedians, and you think the comedy clubs that are closing down and the stand-up comedians, do you think the comedy's going to change now? It seems like with all the bans going on and the subjects of comedy now we can't talk about, it's getting more tighter and tighter. Are we all going to be talking about lockdown and COVID? And surely everyone's going to be doing the same material.
Yeah, it's going to be. So you've got to say if pre or after or something like that, or find your own vehicle to do it. The other thing I don't have a go at things, but I put on Facebook today, I go fishing, put something on, and I will catch somebody, either good, bad, somebody I want to argue or compliment, and I do it just for the sheer hell of it. But I think comedy, I watched last night some of the Live at the Apollo.
Yeah.
And the great Alex McGovern was on, the impressionist.
Alistair, yeah.
Yeah, Alistair, great impressionist. And then there was the American guy and the Scottish comedian ran. And they were talking about the life. And if you talk about your life, it's going to be... When I was a young comedian, I was given some advice. You're too young to tell mother-in-law jokes.
Yeah.
But you've got an elder brother who's married, and you don't want to be like that. So that was changing, and I've done that. Of course, they're geared up to work to people of that age. What's happened? I've reached that, and now I'm older than them.
You've passed it now, so your material does change, but you change your material with your life, don't you? I mean, you talk about the funny things on cruise ships as well, and you talk about being on cruise ships, or if you're at home in the theatre, you talk about driving to the gig. You know, you make it work for you really around the comedy.
I've gone about my grandfather, who was a great man, and he said to me, "I'll give you some advice, son. There's one food substance you should never eat because it'll ruin your life." I said, "What's that, Gran?" He said, "Wedding cake." And that leads me to my grandmother then, who then, he says, I'm slipping away, so I don't hang about. He's on his deathbed. He said, "I've got to confess." "No, you haven't." And there's two ways of telling the gag. One is the ship mixed audiences, but I was unfaithful to you. I was unfaithful to you with our bridesmaid and your sister. And you remember. "It's all right," she said. "Just lie still and let the poison do its work." If it was a gentleman's audience where you said, "and your mother," she said, "and not my father, no, but nearly once, but your brother, yes." So you can put those into an all-male audience like that, you know. And I still get pleasure in writing stuff, whether it gets used or not. I've just thrown a pile of stuff away, all dodgy scripts and that stuff that there's no point in keeping it anymore. It's just clutching the place up. And I came across videos that I'd written many years ago. You could obviously guess what tune it was to. Tony Blair's Picnic. Today's the day, Tony Blair's Picnic. And so a bit, it's history now. So 20 years ago, I think, was it?
It was 20 years ago. It was on the Olsons, wasn't it, back then? Black Prince was 99. 99, and then 2000. And then we were on a cruise from 99 into 2000, weren't we, on the Black Prince, I think?
Yeah. Getting near the end of it there, that was, wasn't it? I did the very final cruise on that, which is very emotional. If you remember, the Black Prince used to stand on stage, they used to ticker tape us. And it was the very last cruise, and we were on it, and it was just so emotional, and all the passengers would come on for it there.
Oh, you were on that last one, were you?
Very last one, yeah.
Oh.
The one before that.
Yeah.
The penultimate, I did the third and the last.
There's that jinx in you working again.
I did the last cruise of the Victoria. I did some of Air Tour's last cruises, yeah.
Yeah. Were you on the Titanic?
Yes, yeah. It didn't go down very well on that one. But,
And he's here to tell the tale. Yeah.
love the fact you can walk just to the theatre where you're performing. Oriana go in the back door and you're ready to work. And
It's nice.
Some great cruise directors and some not so great, but that's personality clashes.
Yeah, that happens in a lot of businesses, doesn't it? A lot of jobs and things.
New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, with all not a sound was heard, and we used to do that with Joe Bolton. I played the butler. This way, ma'am, you know. So yeah, I've had some good moments. I don't think I've had many bad moments, really.
Yeah.
I've had more good moments.
Well, that's good. Well, we hope it comes back. We hope we can all get better and this all goes away, whatever it is. But it's a really weird time, isn't it, Don? It'd be lovely to come and see you. I have to drop by. Whereabouts is it you live now?
I live in a place called Sandyway in Cheshire.
Oh, Cheshire.
Yes.
I've not been to Cheshire. I'd have to pop in.
You've never worked the Lyceum in Crewe?
Oh, I have actually. Yeah, on tour. Are you near there? Do you know Neil Crossland?
Yeah.
Makes the suits. Yeah, he lives near you, doesn't he?
Far from it, yeah. It was a good. George Roper lived down here, etc. It's called Sandyway. Going back to the Ice Age, not last week, the one before. It came down from like Whitchurch, and it went into the sea at Frodsham, and there's a valley, and we're just 200 feet above sea level where we are. But it was the sand that was left by the Ice Age going through, and so it's good ground. And the county's bowl shaped, so we don't get really heavy snows, but we get lots of fogs and frosts.
Yeah, because of your fogs and frosts. Yeah, not easy to say with your mouth shut, is it? Your thogs and your thrusts. You know, Johnny. Don, thank you so much for talking to me on this. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Just remember that when everybody's on about cruising, it's not going to switch on like that. My advice is I came through it into the new ones. It's going to creep back in. There's not going to be 100 ships in, 100 acts working. There's going to be 2, 3 or 4, and then the acts are going to be waiting till it's my turn, you know. And what happens then is I'll do it for £10 less. Comes into it. That's what used to happen. I'll do it for £10 less. Really? Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
Well, I was already £10 behind you, so I'll have to say £20 less, and we can work together again. That would be nice.
I don't think I'll be treading the boards again now. It's nice to work and
enjoy your time at home and watch all your videotapes and finish writing another 10 talks. We've got time, haven't we?
I treat myself. I watch a programme called Still Game from Scotland.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, and it's also, if you go and look at Francine Josie, which is a great Scottish comic doing that, and I go and watch programmes like that and see what I can find some other comedy. I've always loved comedy double acts anyway, yeah. So
I'm always trying to be inspired by watching comedy and still reading books. I love my biographies, you know, so have you written a book about yourself?
I wrote 2 or 3, didn't I? I've published about 4 books over the time. But the actual life story I'm on now, because my father's a prisoner in the First World War, there's a sad side and a good side. But I'll get around to finishing it off one day. But
okay.
When I think I've actually written it and done it on 4 memory sticks of my children. I've not bothered to go to publishing. I've done it on 4 memory sticks.
Oh wow! Well, that's a lovely gift to get. You know, it really is nice for you to think of them like that.
Yeah. Take care, young man. Give my love to Nina and the family.
Thank you, Don.
Eyes and teeth.
Thank you to Don Reid. You can tell we all miss the stage just by the way we're talking. It's in the blood. Yet you can hear the joy that these stories bring to each guest I have on Eyes and Teeth. Don always has a story. He's great company, at sea or on land. To see more of Don, you can find him on Facebook as Don Reid Charles Adrian. Today's comedy quote comes from Sir Ken Dodd. I told the Inland Revenue I didn't owe them a penny, because I lived near the sea. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals provided by Larissa, Lola and Nina Hewlett. Special guest vocals by Rich T. Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Kevin Dean. Listen in next time on Eyes and Teeth Edition 3 when I'll be chatting to the one and only Johnny Laff.